because this is it. Moses knows this is the last time that I'm going to get a chance to speak to these people. And I'm just going to like press upon them because I'm not going with them. He knows he's not going with them. That's what we're going to pick up with. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen. Share my screen with, here it is. All right. Boom. Here we go, people. So this is the end. This is literally the end of Ha'azinu. This is the end of the portion. Deuteronomy 32:48. Okay? Deuteronomy 32:48. Here it is. The same day the Lord said to Moses, go into the Abari mountains to Mount Nebo in Moab, across from Jericho. Let's hold on to that idea. Where is it across from? Jericho, okay? Across from Jericho. Take a look at the land of Canaan that I am giving the Israelites as their own property, okay? Take a look at the land. So if you're up on top of a mountain looking out at the land across from Jericho, it's not like right there in front of your face, but it's this really big, beautiful, sweeping view, right? Big, beautiful, sweeping view of all the land. You see it in all its full glory and beauty, right? You're up there, and Moses could be like, wow, wow. All right, it's not just like, just take a look, and it's right there in front of his face. On this mountain where you are going, you will die and join your ancestors in death as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor. Now, okay, get ready for this next line, people. This is because both of you were unfaithful to me at the oasis of Meribah and Kadesh in the desert of Zin. You didn't show the Israelites how holy I am. Now, does anybody remember what did Moses do that was so bad?
He hit the rock.
Was that so bad? Sukasa, was that so bad?
He tapped the rock
I don't know.
instead of listening to
yes
God.
no. What's that? Miriam,
He
was
tapped.
that you?
No, that was Donna. He tapped
go,
the
Donna.
rock. He didn't speak to the rock like the Lord said. He didn't speak the word. He tapped it,
All
like she
right,
said.
fine. All right, great. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what it says. That's where we got the whole thing. But we're going to break that down today because I'm not so sure. Okay. You may see the land from the distance, but you may not enter the land I'm giving the Israelites. All right, let me ask you this question. When you see the land from a distance, right? When you get to see, like if you're up, like let's just say you are up in an airplane flying over the United States of America, right? It's amazing. Like you look, you're just like, wow. What do you not see?
People.
Okay, what else? Yes, you don't see the people. Great.
Houses.
What else do you not see?
You don't see anything but land.
Okay, what else do you not see? You don't see anything but land. It's beautiful. What else do you not see?
The unfolding of the future of that land and the people.
Okay, fabulous, Jeff. Jeff, do you prefer Jeff or Jeffrey?
Either or. Dr. Jeff, Dr. J,
Ooh.
Jeff, Jeffrey.
Ooh, can I
Doesn't
call you
matter.
Dr. J? Do I have
Sure.
your permission to call you Dr. J?
But
There's a
remember,
lot of names.
white men can't jump. That's the only problem.
Dr. J, here it is. Okay, you don't see the unfolding of the future. Fabulous. All right, let's also think about the present. What else do you not see from way up above?
The suffering of the people.
All right, you don't see suffering. You don't see poverty. You don't see the ugliness. You don't see any of that.
You don't see
All right?
anger.
You don't, what's that, Merle?
You don't see anger.
Okay, you don't see any of that. You don't see any of that exactly. All right.
But you don't really see the beauty either, Rabbi.
Okay.
You can't really, if you're up 30,000 feet, you don't see the trees, you may see a huge lake, but you really don't see beauty either. You don't see.
Well, maybe you don't see a different kind of beauty, because I personally find it just breathtaking to be able to be up in those plains and see our beautiful country as I fly over, right? To be able to see the Grand Canyon and to be able to see the Rocky Mountains, right?
Mhm.
To me, it's like, but it's like a picture.
But those are big things.
Yes, that's the point. That's exactly right, Sukasa. Those are big things. Now, Donna said, because Moses didn't speak to the rock, but instead hit the rock. The reason why. All right. Why did he hit the rock instead of speak to the rock? What do you think? Why did he hit the rock instead of speak to the rock?
He was angry.
All right. He was angry. Why was he angry?
This was a crisis of faith more than anything else
For whom?
for Moses.
How is this a crisis? In that moment, how was that a crisis of faith?
Because he thought he had to do more, that the word of God was not enough, that he had to act to ensure the action necessary.
Okay, interesting. Let's take
Rabbi,
a look. Yes, who's speaking?
Miss Jones, Donna, Lady Madonna.
All right.
I think
Donna, go ahead.
I think that he didn't obey the Lord because he was full of himself and he wanted to do it his way, in his own strength, and he didn't listen to God. That's it, right
Okay,
there.
so this is really interesting. All right. If that example existed in a vacuum, maybe I would say I agree. But the event does not exist in a vacuum. Let's take a look. Let's look at the video. What was it back in the day? Let's take a look at the videotape. Right? What was that? Let's take a look at the videotape. We're not looking at any videotape, but I'm going down. Get ready.
Evidence.
Numbers 20.
Check this out. All right. This is Numbers 20. Right? This is Numbers 20. This is the piece that we've just been talking about. Okay. In the first month, the whole community of Israel came to the desert of Zin and they stayed at Kadesh. Miriam died and was buried there. Check it out. All right. So this is already going. We're already into the story. We're just showing what we just talked about, the hitting. Right. Since the community was without water, they came together to confront Moses and Aaron. The people complained to Moses and said, if we only had died when the other Israelites died in the Lord's presence, did you bring the Lord's assembly into the desert just to have us and our animals die here? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us into this terrible place? This is no place to plant crops. Even figs, grapes, pomegranates won't grow here. And there's no water to drink. Right? They're going crazy. Look at what this. Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting. Immediately they bowed there with their faces touching the ground, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord said to Moses, take your staff, then you and your brother Aaron gather the community right before their eyes, right? Tell the rock to give its water. This is what we were just talking about. In this way, you will give the community water from the rock and them and their animals to drink. All right, check this out. Moses took out his staff in the tent in the Lord's presence as he had been commanded. Then Moses and Aaron assembled the community in front of the rock and said to them, listen, you rebels, must we bring water out of this rock for you? And Moses raised his hand and hit the rock twice with the staff, and water came pouring out, and the people and their animals drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, you didn't trust me. You didn't show the Israelites how holy I am. So you will not bring this congregation into the land that I am giving them. Right there. Okay. What's the scene? Is it calm? Are the Israelite people like, oh, please, may we have some water, please? Maybe. Yes, Sukasa.
Well, it seems that, Moses was very frustrated. And they were complaining and they were using Moses as a, God, I'm blanking on the word, as a stand-in for God. Rather than complaining to God, they were using him as a substitute, and he was very frustrated. And one would think.
Do you think he was only frustrated?
Well, he was angry at God and the people.
And maybe even scared. You got these Hundreds of thousands of people yelling at you in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be mad.
I'd be like, would you? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now,
You're
here's the
right,
part-
Rabbi.
Here's the part that I find interesting, okay? Why does he hit the rock?
I think he hit the rock out of anger.
Okay, all right, maybe.
I mean, yeah,
But-
possibly.
Okay, I mean, if you just look at this piece, one could say, yeah, sure, he's angry. He's like, he's got... Let's take a look at an earlier example. Okay, let's go back. We're going to go back now. Get ready. Check it out. We're going back to Exodus. All right, here we are. We're back at Exodus. Check this out. This is now, way before. The whole community of Israelites left the desert of sin and traveled from place to place as the Lord commanded them. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they complained to Moses, saying, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why are you complaining to me? Why are you testing the Lord?" But the people were thirsty for water. They complained to Moses and asked, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Was it to make us, our children, and our livestock die of thirst?" Does this sound familiar? This is exactly what happens later on, right? This is exactly what happens later on. So Moses cries out to the Lord, "What should I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." What does that mean? They're almost ready to kill him. Like literally, these people. So it's not just that they're complaining. This is like an angry mob. This is an angry mob. And it only gets worse as they keep moving through the wilderness. This is not just people complaining. This is an angry mob. And Moses feared for his life. The Lord answers Moses, "Bring some of the leaders of Israel with you and go to where the people can see you. Take your staff. Take the staff you used to strike the Nile River. I'll be standing in front of you there by a rock at Mount Horeb. Strike the rock and water will come out for the people to drink." Moses did this while the leaders of Israel watched him. What's different? What's different?
Another question is, what's the same? And the same is that to Moses, the staff represented all the power of God. Every plague was initiated by the staff or some segment of it, so that the power of God for Moses was contained in the staff as far as his active experience was concerned. So he would naturally grasp that to accomplish God's will.
You're right, Dr. Jeff.
Thank you,
What
whoever
I'm
that
saying?
was.
Go, Roy. Go. What you want to say?
The thing I notice different from these passages from the first one, the Deuteronomy, is that there's now a transition from using a staff to convey God's help to using word as conveying what God is capable of doing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. If that existed in a vacuum. Because that's out the window as we keep going.
Yeah, but the difference between here in Exodus and
Correct.
Deuteronomy is that they've received Torah from Mount Sinai.
Okay, so
Rabbi?
yes, go, Miriam. Thank you, Roy. We'll get back to the point. Go, Miriam.
Yes, this is the first time, and it's because you made us aware that in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus, this passage is now made very clear to us, whereas before this, I always just kind of read it and read on and never really delved into it. Now I see something very difficult for Moses. And again, I feel badly about his death. I'm really on his side. We always learned that Moses was punished because he had the ability to speak to the rock, but instead he used violence. So we learn from that you must always speak before you resort to something violent, which is a last resort. He did the opposite. But then to confuse us, in Exodus, God says to Moses, strike the rock and water will come out. So he is actually commanding Moses not to speak, which is our very first way of reaching anything or people or whatever. And then the last resort is when you stop speaking. In this case, God did the opposite. He did not tell him to talk to the rock. He said, strike the rock. So when Moses confronted the rock again in Deuteronomy many years later, or many months later, which is the last book of the Chumash.
Yeah, it wasn't even in Deuteronomy. It's in Numbers.
Oh, okay. And so we see that he strikes the rock. That's right, because Deuteronomy repeats it exactly. Then it's very confusing for Moses. It's now confusing for me, Miriam. And you brought this to our attention to confuse us. And I like that.
We love you, Miriam. I miss you, Miriam. That was a good point.
Sure.
Thank you, Miriam.
Because look, it's
do
like.
Do you agree with the point that even though God says that he strengthens and maintains Moses's vigor until 120, that's not the natural history of humans. I think as we approach the end, there's a degree of senility. There's a degree of loss of power in this man's abilities that's consistent with his age. I think there's a natural decline.
We're getting somewhere. Okay. We're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere because that then also could lead to the discussion of whether or not this was a punishment, right? Maybe just the way that God kind of set it up, could have thought about it a little differently, but was this really a punishment? Because check it out. He could have been, Moses also going back to muscle memory, right? This is what he did in Egypt. With all of the plagues. This is what he did in the same instance before. And here he's surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people who want to kill him to get water. And it's like, hey, here's water. He's like, okay, here's water here. I'm going to hit the rock because that's my muscle memory. Going back to muscle memory.
That makes sense.
Independent decisions by both Moses and Aaron are
Wait, say that again?
caused independent decisions, not God directed, were what caused both of these men to sustain the losses that they did, the punishments that they received, because their decisions on their own did not yield the results that they anticipated. And in the bottom of this, you even see the foreshadowing that God already describes what's going to happen in this parsha that you have shown, as far as the example that we're speaking about. But the weaknesses of the entire experience with God and Aaron and God and Moses is when they attempt to make independent decisions. And most of them were wrong.
Okay, hold on. Who's Laura? Is that you? You speaking?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What pops out at me when we look at it the way you have just set it up for us is that the difference is that God, once Moses had the 10 Commandments, Moses was no longer the intermediary for God. People had to pray to him directly. They had to ask forgiveness and pray to him directly. And that's what Moses wasn't trusting. But I think you're right that it probably was an issue of muscle memory too. Twice it worked that he struck the rock and they got water. Why wouldn't he think, or, once before, why wouldn't he think it would work again?
Yeah, well, I think it also takes time, this evolution. You can't just go from one day looking at God as the exemplar, or looking at Moses as the exemplar, and then the next day not, right? It's going to take time, and it's the same. It's going to take time for Moses's transition. Sue, you wanted to say something, and then Roy looked like you wanted to say something. But
If
go
God,
Sue, and then Merle.
if God's all knowing, he knew that Moses wasn't going to listen to him when he hit the rock.
Okay. So now you're
So
throwing that
how
in.
do we account for that?
That's
Okay,
a good one.
We'll talk about it in a second. We'll see. I'll show you. I had an
Okay.
idea. I think I have an idea. Roy.
No, I didn't have
Oh,
anything.
sorry. Okay, Merle.
I'm thinking that the people were mad.
Yeah.
Moses was confused.
Yeah.
And God wasn't exactly doing a great job of giving Moses advice as to what to do. And this is just an example of everybody being confused. So they yelled at Moses, and Moses is upset because he got yelled at. And he strikes the rock, whether he was told to or not. And the rock is his
Spoken
anger.
like a mother.
And then, well, I am.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that there's a lot between all of the people, assuming that, God is watching. I think everybody is totally confused. So God is mad because the message
Everybody's
isn't getting there.
confused. What is going on here? Yeah, and you're not too far. Okay, that's it. You know what's so funny? When I teach this passage to nursery school kids, I always it's like, use your words. Moses, use your words. Right? That God is talking to Moses. Moses, I want you to use your words and speak to the rock. And then he says, and what did you do? I hit the rock. But I was just so angry. They made me so frustrated. Moses, even more so, when you're frustrated, you really need to just take a breath and use your words. That's how I teach this to the little kids. It's hysterical.
Rabbi, I like that. Our words are powerful. They carry weight. It's a lesson that we honor God with our words, and we speak from, the meditation of our heart, be acceptable unto the Lord. And we're not perfect, we're only human, but it's important to guard our lips and watch what we say.
Yep. Good. Beautiful.
Rabbi.
Thank you. Right from our, yes, Jeff, Dr. J.
I promise next year for a resolution for Yom Kippur, I will use less words.
God forbid. God forbid. God forbid.
And then we'll
Go,
all
Miriam.
wonder what happened to you.
I see. Yeah, that's true. Weakened in my old age.
Who's this Jeff that suddenly came out?
Go ahead, Miriam.
What I notice again, although we all noticed it, is again he says, take the staff.
Yeah.
Now, in Deuteronomy, again he says, take the staff and talk to the rock.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why does God want him to take the staff with him?
God set him up. God set him up.
Another thing that confused Moses.
Woo!
Every shaman needs a staff.
God is setting Moses up because I believe God made this decision that Abraham wasn't going in.
Moses.
Sorry, not Abraham. Did I say Abraham? God made this decision that Moses is not going in a long time before. We're going to take a look at another piece, right? Okay, let's back up. This is just as an excuse. I think this is just an excuse.
Sure.
That God tricking Moses or kind of letting Moses down easy instead of being like, all right, you were walking around with these people for 40 years. You were into Egypt. You did all those things, but I'm not going to let you in. God never intended for Moses to go into the land.
Mm-hmm.
God never intended for Moses to go into the land. Let's take a look at.
They needed a different type leader. Moses.
Yes,
was
they
not
do.
the
We're going to
leader.
get to that.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that. Check it out right here. All
Before
right?
we end, can I ask later a very important question to get your opinion as to the nature of an age-old question here?
Oh boy, I think I'm.
You're stuttering, Rabbi.
I think I'm frozen, Jeff. I don't think I got.
There you go.
I can't get you. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's go back to the Spies. Do you remember the Spies? Okay, so they had only been walking around for a little while, and they made it to the promised land. They were there.
Joshua and
Way
Caleb.
back, right?
Joshua and Caleb.
Joshua and Caleb, right? So let's just, I'm just going to read through this part quickly as a quick reminder, right? We're back. We're even earlier. The Lord said to Moses, send men to explore Canaan, which I'm giving to the Israelites. Send one leader from each of the ancestors. Go explore it. Go check it out. So at the Lord's command, Moses sent these men from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. And it jumps down and makes a list of all those people. I cut that part out. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he told them, go through the Negev and then go into the mountain region. See what the land is like and whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. Is the land they live in good or bad? Do their cities have walls around them or not? Is the soil rich or poor? Does the land have trees or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit from the land, right? To check out all that stuff. So the men explored the land from the desert of Zin. We keep talking about that place, to the border of Hamath, right? They went through the Negev. They came to Hebron. They came to Iman. They came to Sheshai. They came to Talmai, and Talmai lived, right? They are descendants of Anak. Oh, Anak, the giants. Anak, that's the Hebrew word for giant or really huge, is Anak, right? When they came to Eshkol Valley, they cut off a branch with one of the branches of grapes that he carried. They carried it a pole between them, right? You've seen that picture before, like on the tourism emblem of Israel. Comes from this passage. Those two guys walking with all the grapes, right? The emblem of tourism from the tourism ministry of Israel comes from this passage right here. So they brought all this amazing stuff. 40 days later, they came back from exploring the land. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. They gave the report and showed them the fruit that they had brought. This is what they reported to Moses. When we went to the land where you sent us, it really is a land flowing with milk and honey. Here comes some of its fruit, but the people who live there are strong, and the cities have walls, and they are very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites live in the mountain region, and the Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, all along the Jordan River. Caleb told the people to be quiet and listen to Moses. Caleb said, let's go now and take possession of this land. We should be more than able to conquer it. But the men who had gone with him said, we can't attack those people. They're too strong for us. So they began to spread lies among the Israelites about the land they explored. They said, the land we explored is one that devours those who live there. All the people we saw there are very tall. We saw Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak. We felt as small as grasshoppers. That's how we must have looked to them. And everybody freaks out. Everybody freaks out. They all say, let's go back to Egypt. Why did you take us out of Egypt only to go get smashed like bugs here, right? Everybody freaks out. And this is the point where God decides the only two people that are going in, Joshua and Caleb. The only two people that are going in who were from Egypt, including Moses, Caleb and Joshua. Why they chose Joshua? Caleb, I mean, they both did it. They say Caleb was too quick at heart to fight. Joshua was a little bit slower, right? He was a little bit more thoughtful. Instead of run, he walked, right? Don't run if you can walk. But this is where they decided. So what is it? They said that God decides that for 40 years, for every day that the spies were in the land, they were in there for 40 days. For every day, they're going to wander for 40 years. The idea is to kill off the entire generation from Egypt. Not one single person who was from Egypt, born in Egypt, lived in that thing, was making it into the promised land. Only Joshua and only Caleb. And not even Moses. God made the decision. This is not going to work. These people, they still feel the yoke of slavery around their neck. But in order to get them there, Moses needs to lead them. Right? It needs to be Moses because they saw what Moses did and how God spoke through Moses with all of the plagues, with all of the wonders, make them with the crossing of the sea. They will listen and believe him. But as Dr. J said, when you get to the promised land, things are going to be different. That's the end of one journey and the beginning of another. I, meaning God, I'm going to need another leader of the people. Moses, he's good for now, but he won't be good for when they go in there. Nothing against Moses. He just doesn't have that skill set. Laura raised her hand. Very impressive on the Zoom. Laura, go, and then I'll continue.
I think you answered. I didn't mean to ask another question now. Sorry.
No sorries. I love that you did that. That's fabulous. I don't even know how to bring that thing up. Right? Moses. Yeah, go, Jeff. Dr. J.
There's an overall impression that we have that Moses not being allowed into the promised land was a punishment.
Correct.
And I see it totally different.
Bring it.
Moses goes on the mountain and offers 113 prayers and entreaties to God, and God continues to say, no, you will not go across the Jordan into the land. And what we don't realize is that in God's great mercy, this was not a punishment to Moses. This was a reward for his job that he did do to this point, and he's being taken up to God, closer to God, maybe in Kabbalistic terms, up to the fourth level and into the garden with God, for all we know. But that this was not to be interpreted as a punishment, but as a gift from God.
Okay, let's take a poll here. Let's take a poll. By a show of hands, who thinks God should have let Moses go into the land after all that Moses had been through? I mean, come on. He just went plagues, Pharaoh, walking around with these people who want to kill him every other day, 40 years. Let him go in. How many think it was, should have let him? How many think, nah, you know what? This is better. This is much better the way he's doing it. This is more of a blessing. This is more of a blessing. Great. Okay. Roy, you said blessing. Why?
I'm gonna have to think on that. It's one of those words. It just came from the depths.
From the gut. From your guts. I love it. Guts Judaism. That's the best. Sukasa, you said should have let him in.
Like he earned it, and I'd like to believe that good things happen to good people, and nobody's perfect.
Okay. What did he earn?
Well, he led the people. He took them out of Egypt. He led them in the desert. He gave them the Torah, 10 Commandments. I mean, you know.
Okay, but what do you think he earned? What should be the reward?
The right to enter the promised land.
And do what with that?
Just to be there. It's sort of like seeing a project to the end.
Okay.
You know, there are some people that will start lots of things and they don't finish them, but he was prevented from finishing it. And I think he wanted to.
So he didn't, but well, that's a great question. He wanted to, he didn't, he finished his project.
You mean
he did.
Taking them there?
Getting them to the land, getting them there. That was what he was
Signed
to do.
Let him in so that he can live with the satisfaction that he completed the project, and then it's time for a new leader.
Yeah, so let him in with the satisfaction. And what do you think? Okay. Now, in my mind, when you're making it over, let him in. It's not like he's going, to Palm Springs. He's not going to the Westin, the Westin villas in Rancho Mirage for a round of golf and some tennis. So, that's what I would love to do. That's my favorite place.
When do we go, Rabbi?
Dude, I'm going next week.
All right. What's your handicap, Rabbi?
Oh, I don't play the golf. I see that I'm a tennis player.
Oh,
but I like to stay on the golf course because it's beautiful. But I go for the tennis.
It's for the view.
Yeah, I go for the tennis. Anyway, if Moses is there, let him in. Let him sit there on the 18th green in the morning as the sun is coming up over the mountains, sipping a cup of coffee. Right? basically, I'm telling you what I do. Like, I get up early in the morning, watch the sunrise over the mountains, enjoy the coffee, and that is like, I have made it. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know who's playing, but
All right. That's
Moses.
that's Moses. That is not what Moses would have seen. Is Miriam, are you trying to speak maybe?
I am not playing.
Oh, not play. Laura, are you trying to speak? Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
mute everybody.
That's not what, God forbid somebody try to mute you, Dr. J. Oh, you just did it yourself. Or maybe it was, you didn't mute yourself. I think, I think Hannah did it. What was it that if he would have been sitting out there trying to sip a nice Turkish coffee, what would he see once entering the promised land? Does anybody know?
The trouble with him seeing the promised land from the mountains is I think he would have seen the worst of the Jews and their actions over the time period that he would be observing. I think there
if he was in the
yes.
Yes.
The idea is from the mountain, unfortunately, in a transcendent state, he would have seen the horrors of what happens to the Jews when they're in the land. And I don't think he could have tolerated that or been a part of that.
Great. Okay, so I would say that is why. All right, because when they go in, check this out, Sukasa. You ever hear the song, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, 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 right? Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came a-tumbling down, right? That's what happens right as soon as Deuteronomy ends, as soon as the Torah ends, the next book, the book of Joshua, they go right to war. It's just fighting and battles, right? When he said Jericho, he goes up, he can see that it's fighting. It's like the spies come in and they're checking things out, and all the people are mixing and they're hooking up with people who are not from the Israelites, and it's just like they start fighting, and it's ugly and transgression. And Moses, this is what I'm going to give you for the prize for taking these people into the promised land. All of your years of wandering and gathering them, and this is what you're going to see, just all the transgression and grossness and war and blood and fighting. No, I'm going to put you on top of the mountain so I'm going to spare you from that. I'm going to let you see really the beauty from afar. It's going to take some time for them to get to the place that they need to be. And, are we even there yet? Moses, I think that this was a blessing that God blessed. God never intended for Moses to go in. Maybe God could have handled it a little differently, be like, I want you to take them all the way to the end, but you're not going to go in. Maybe God thought Moses wouldn't do it then, or, Moses wouldn't commit, but if Moses thought he was actually going into a place that it was going to be literally a land flowing with milk and honey, but it's not, right? But it's not. As soon as the Torah ends, starts with Joshua, right to war. And if the difference between Caleb and Joshua, Caleb would have just run in, guns blazing. Joshua, a little slower, smarter, sent new spies in to kind of infiltrate within the people of Jericho, right? Get some people on their side, right? Kind of infiltrate, clandestine. That's the difference between Caleb and Joshua. Why Joshua was chosen over Caleb. But it's still war. It's still ugly. And God was sparing Moses from this. Come and just see the beauty of the land rather than the ugliness that's going to take place for centuries and centuries to come before it's truly going to be, a promised land. That's different. Let's take a look now. And this has something to do with what Jeff was saying, what Dr. J was saying. Moses continues to speak to the Israelites. I'm 120 years old now, and I'm not able to lead you anymore. He had outgrown his quote unquote usefulness, or maybe his skill set, or just the physicality of it all. 120 years, you think he's going to be ready to go in as a general, start fighting again like this? Didn't have it in him. And if the people see that he doesn't have it in him, they're not going to fight. But instead they see Joshua, right? Who's smart, even-keeled, full of faith, right? Besides, the Lord has told me that I cannot cross the Jordan River. The Lord your God is the one who will cross the river ahead of you. He will destroy those nations as you arrive, and you will take possession of their land. Joshua will also cross the river ahead of you, as the Lord told you. The Lord will do to the nations that he did to the to King Sihon and King Og and the Amorites, the lands that they destroyed them. The Lord will hand them over to you, and you must do to them everything that I commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Don't tremble. Don't be afraid. The Lord your God is the one who is going with you. He won't abandon you as you leave. Now, check this out. Again, it says, then Moses called for Joshua and said to him in the presence of all of Israel, be strong and courageous. You will go with these people into the land that the Lord will give them, as he swore to their ancestors. You will help them take possession of the land. The Lord is the one who is going ahead of you. He will be with you. He won't abandon you or leave you. So don't be afraid or terrified. These are also the same first words in the book of Joshua, where God says to Joshua, be strong and courageous, right? Moses can't be that.
What's interesting, there's another picture that's portrayed at this meeting, which is the aura that surrounded Moses and gave him God's gift to him of wisdom and prophecy and knowledge. Moses imparts to Joshua in that same ceremony when he gives him the leadership before the people. So that in essence, whatever was the best part of Moses has been transmitted into Joshua and is carried into the land ahead of him. So that we don't really lose the wisdom of Moses if you think that it's a quality that's transcendent and can be passed to his successor from God, imparted.
Let's talk a little bit beautiful. Let's talk a little bit also now about what were some of those qualities of Moses that made him fit for the journey, but not fit to take them into the land and lead. There's something very, very specific, I think. Was God always happy with the people as they moved through the land?
Stiff-necked, no.
Stiff-necked. God was ready to get rid of these people multiple times, right? Say to Moses, you know what? Let's just get rid of these guys. Let's go find some new people. These guys, they're not worthy. Stiff-necked, yoke of slavery on. No, I made a mistake. Let's just find some new people. You remember with the golden calf, right? Moses is really angry with the people and disappointed, right? When I teach this with the kids, I'm like, yeah, Moses comes out and says, I am very disappointed in your actions, right? You have to, now with the little kids, you have to be very careful. You don't say I'm disappointed in you, but I'm disappointed in your actions, right? We don't want to say that, we're disappointed in the kid. But then, and he's like really angry and stern with them. But then what happens? Moses goes back up the mountain and God is ready to let's get rid of these people. And what does God do? Or what does Moses do?
He does a PR number on God.
Moses stands up for the people, right? That was Moses's job, to be the intermediary. As much as the people were looking to Moses to be that conduit, it's the same thing. God is looking to Moses to be that conduit back in the other direction. And Moses was the one who was fighting for the people. If you're going to get rid of them, get rid of me. I'm with them. Miriam, unmute yourself, please. Try again.
Top right corner.
Please. Thank you. Perfect. Go.
This makes me think of Abraham when he interceded for Sodom. And he said, there are 50, 40, even if there are 10 righteous people, will you still not destroy the city? And they could, so that they have that in common. And I like to make that comparison.
I like that.
Even though
but-
Moses came so many years after Abraham, nevertheless, they both had that they were leading a people, or else Abraham felt he didn't have that people yet to lead, but he felt he had to intercede. Whereas Moses did feel the responsibility. He felt both the responsibility and compassion, two qualities that you need for a leader.
Beautiful. Especially
present
for
we
a
don't-
people that
At
is
present,
broken.
we don't have, yes. But
Like-
so that it shows that he was so compassionate.
Yeah. But let's
Spite
not,
of-
don't get me started with Abraham. He's speaking up for those people in Sodom and Gomorrah, doesn't speak up about his own son. Don't get me started, Miriam.
I know
Don't
that.
get me started.
That's an unanswered question for many millennia to come.
Don't get me
Hi.
started.
Hi, Miriam. Miriam, you're so wise. I love listening to you. This is Donna. Miss you,
Amen,
darling.
Donna. Amen. Jeff, go, Dr. J.
You know, if you look at it in terms of our psychology today, what is God's initial purpose at the time of the Exodus? What is his purpose in Moses's ability to talk God down? And it's ego and PR and world awareness of God as the ultimate entity. In other words, there's a certain, every time Moses appeals to God, it's through, you can't do this, you can't kill those people you chose them specifically, you're going to look bad in the world and to the world. No one would believe in you as the ultimate God.
Yeah.
So that Moses is a PR agent for the people. And yet it's the ego of God which is salved by his appeals, because God has a purpose in being declared God of all throughout the stories that we have, beginning in the Exodus.
Which is interesting because it's like, and I know we've talked about this before, right? I know we've talked about this before. You know, God just set this whole thing up. God, they were the Jacob and his sons, they were already in Canaan. They were already there. God sent the famine and they all left. They went to Egypt. So God sent them to Egypt to grow them and then take them back. And then God's like, I can't believe they're acting this way. But you did this. You made them this way. You're the one who made them slaves. They have the yoke of slavery on them and they have this feeling. Why? Because you sent them there. I can't believe it. Believe it.
Rabbi, I believe that God sent them to Egypt to fulfill the dream that Joseph had, to bring his love and compassion and feed the people who were hungry, and to show that don't make fun of a Jewish boy who has a dream. He forgave his brothers, and he became second in charge in Egypt and fed the whole family. And
Yeah.
the story
But
goes.
why were they hungry in the first place?
Yeah, right.
Because God chose, I don't know, I'm not God.
They were hungry in the first place because God said, I'm going to send a famine and all these people are going to be hungry. So that's right. This is amazing. It's amazing. It's all cool. Okay.
They also didn't like what food there was, if you want to call that
So that's when I say to my kids, they say, I'm hungry. Well, look, I've got these fabulous vegetables. I got some fruit, we got salad, we have pasta leftovers. I don't want that. I guess you're not really that hungry, are you?
Always complaining.
That's what I said to my, you know what? I said that this morning to my daughter. She didn't like the way I scrambled the eggs. Don't eat them. Don't eat them. Don't care. Don't eat them.
Rabbi,
Debbie had a cow
agree.
yesterday because there was cheese in her sandwich.
Oh my God. And I see homeless people every day over here where I live with nothing to eat, nowhere to live. We are so wealthy. We should be thankful.
Yeah, amen. All right. So with that, unfortunately, my computer is about to die. I'm on one. So we're going to end just a couple seconds early because I want to say Shana Tova, Umetuka, a good year, a sweet year. And I'm not going to say have an easy fast. Fast shouldn't be easy. I'm going to say have a meaningful fast. Some, meaningful fast. Okay? Not some kal, meaningful fast. And Gamal Chatima Tova, may we all be written in the book of life, have a good writing in there. And if you're, on Monday morning, I know services start at 10 Monday morning, but if you're awake at 9 o'clock, you can check out what we're putting out there for the kids. It's called Hi Ho Kids. Check it out. It's amazing. The High
Rosh
Holiday Kids.
Hashanah, amazing.
Please watch Hi Ho Kids Yom Kippur, and then it's Sukkot and Simchat Torah. We're gonna have another one, Hi Ho Kids Simchat Torah and Sukkot. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see you all again in person. So Shana Tova, everybody. Have a
Lashana
meaningful
Tova,
fast.
everybody.
Meaningful fast.
May all
Shabbat
your
Shalom.
repairs,
Oh, yeah. Sukkot.
may
Shabbat
all
Shalom.
your repairs hold through the year.
Shabbat shalom.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Jeff. Bye.
You're
Shabbat
welcome.
Shalom,
Bye, Mary.
everybody. Good
Love
luck,
you
Fatima
all.
Tova.
Bye, Rabbi.
Be well.
If I can get on.
Have a great repair and hope it persists. No
Amen.
recidivism this year.
And
Nice.
believe in your dreams.
There you go. Roy, keep reading.
Wow.